Hi everyone, thank you for attending our Intro to Excel workshop as part of our skills development series. My name is Emma. I'm the marketing officer for the Ukrainian Canadian Congress Alberta Provincial Council, and we have Rory with us today, and he will be running the workshop. So just as a brief overview, I'll do an overview of who we are, the Ukrainian Canadian Congress Alberta Provincial Council, what the Skills Development Series is, then Rory will go into the workshop with you, and then we'll come back together for a conclusion. So the Ukrainian Canadian Congress Alberta Provincial Council, we're an umbrella organization that represents all self-identifying Ukrainian Canadians in Alberta. So we provide leadership and coordination. We identify and address the needs of the Ukrainian community in Alberta, and we promote linkages with Ukraine. So over the past few months, we've been doing some projects to respond to community needs in terms of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So we've been doing children's creative and activity kits to keep them busy over the summer, and we're doing a second round to keep them busy in their free time and get away from their screens over the winter. We did some seniors hygiene kits. We also did a food bank drive in rural Alberta. And now we're doing the skills development series. So we created the skills development series to respond to people who may have been laid off by their jobs and have been struggling to find employment due to the pandemic in our community. And so there's two parts to this series. The first part is our post-secondary information webinars. So this is the opportunity for people to learn about what options there are out there with colleges in Alberta, for them to gain more knowledge, take some classes or a short program, and add on to their existing skills to be successful in today's job market. So that's the first part. And our next webinar with post-secondary information is on December 3rd. And you can sign up for that webinar on our website. The information's also on our Facebook page and in our event for the Skills Development Series. The second part to our Skills Development Series is our computer skills workshops. So this is one of those workshops. We've already done some workshops in computer basics as well as Intro to Microsoft Word. And we have two workshops for each, one in English and one Ukrainian, so we can be accessible to everyone in the community. We thought the computer skills were important to help people learn and gain digital literacy, as moving online with the pandemic, virtual skills and digital skills are more important now than ever, and we wanted to give everyone those skills to stay connected and be successful. So today's our Intro to Excel workshop, and our next one in the computer skills series will be on December 10th, and that will be Intro to Google Suite. So without any further delay, I will pass you off to Rory, our community officer, and he will walk you through this workshop on Introduction to Excel.
Hi, thanks, Emma. Like she said, I'm Rory Storr, and I'm the community officer with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. And so I'm just going to I'm hoping it's in order. Let me check quick. Yeah, I'm still sharing. So I'm just going to keep this open just to show you certain keys I may use. Not really going to go back to this too often, but because I really covered it in Microsoft Word already, so I don't really feel like I need to explain everything thoroughly on the control keys again. But I'm just going to keep that open. And let's learn how to use Excel. So a lot like Microsoft Word, there's even just opening up Microsoft Excel, there's a couple ways. Like mine's already open. I have it open for a reason. But I could go here. I could type in, it already says recent. But if I type in just Excel will show up. If you have older Windows, you might have to type in Microsoft Excel. it'll show up same. And you can also go to the start menu. And again, if you have an older computer, it might be under Office or Microsoft Office. This one just doesn't have it. It'll actually just have it under E for Excel. So yeah, those are two basic ways you could do it. Or otherwise, you could also go right click it and pin to start. And so what that means is that every time I open up my start, it says start there. It's over here. Like I already have Word there. I don't know why I have that there. This is random stuff. I didn't even do this myself. Yeah, so let's actually open Excel. I think it's just going to open up my own window, but let's see. Oh, actually, give me a brand new one. So this isn't typically what you'll see. I just happen to have Excel already open, but it'll show you something like this, I do believe. Obviously, we want to start a new one. So this is my recent file, so you can ignore all those. There are templates for Excel, just like other ones. Actually, there's a tutorial. If you ever want to do formula tutorials, drop-down tutorials, Power Query, after you watch this video, feel free to go to this if you happen to have that option. But let's click on new. It gives me a bunch of options. We're just going to go blank workbook. There we go. If you watch my Microsoft Word one, the most important thing I consider when you start anything new is to save it and find a name for it. So I'm going to go File. And remember, don't click Save, because Save will just save it to where it's already located when you open it up, which is, I don't even remember. I'd have to go hunting. So always go Save As. You're going to, it might give you recent spots you already saved. I always prefer the manual way where I'll go Browse, typically go PC. I'm just doing what I'm going to do just to make things a little quicker. I did this in Microsoft Word as well. This PC, Documents, I've already made files. That was on Word as well. I'm going to go to Work. I'm just going to call it, yeah, see, I already made one when I was doing the script for this webinar Excel. I'm just going to save it over top webinar Excel. Why not? So if you want to save over something, you can do that. Save as, I click on that. It's the same name, authors, save. Save. Yes, yes. Yeah, so now it has its name. It's been saved. Again, I've showed this before, but if you want to open it, you go to open. And then all the steps we just did for save as, you would do that there. Okay, so Excel. Before we begin putting in data, let's look at our ribbon. So our ribbon is all these things here that change the menu, or ribbon menu. But a lot of these are self-explanatory. Home is like where all the basic functions that are used more often are found. So letter changing, fonts, etc. Insert is if you want to insert a chart, you want to insert a picture, shapes, icons, basic things that you would insert, if that makes any sense. It's for the more or less obvious. Page layout will actually change the layout of the page to printing. So like margins, which is like, that's a little hard to describe. Margins, orientation. So you'll notice that if you look at the picture here, you can change it to portrait mode. So if you've ever used a camera on a phone, you'll know as landscape and portrait. So like the data, say you have a bunch of numbers that are like up and down, you could orientate it so that there'd be, when it prints on the paper, it would be printing horizontally instead of vertically, or other way around. Size, print area, background. So that's kind of like insert, but background's affecting the picture behind the words, or well, whatever. Print tiles, etc., etc., etc. Formulas, I'll touch on that later, but I'll touch on that. I'm touching on that later, so we'll leave that for now. Data. So this is like importing information. So like the example I'll be showing you in a bit here, I imported data from StatsCan, which is Statistics Canada. I don't remember what information I have, but I just found some random info just to show examples with from TechCV, CSV, from the web. So I could have used this when I was importing my data. That could be you have it saved somewhere. So you get it from your computer. Uh, Stocks, geography, like it's designed for a lot of things. So you're going to see some very advanced things to do on here. Review is kind of just think of like if you're peer reviewing a person's document, like say someone had some stuff here, they sent the file to you and you're just reviewing it for them, like comment stuff like that. That's what this is for. So spelling, thesaurus, workbook statistics, accessibility. Accessibility is like who can access the actual document, or if you want to keep it private so other people can access it. Commonly, so what I was just talking about, if you're peer reviewing, you could do new comment. So you see the little purple thing, that means I'm doing it. So I'll like say I wanted to comment just this square particularly. This box is blank. That's my comment. So when this actually printed, that purple thing won't show up. These words won't show up. It's just a comment. So if I sent this file to somebody, they could read what I wrote and then be like, they could be okay. And just, you see these three dots, resolve thread. I mean, so like it wouldn't let anyone else comment, or you could just reopen it, delete it. I'm just going to delete it. I was just showing you that's what you can do. You can show comments, hide comments. View is more for like what I showed you on Word as well. So like it doesn't really affect the page layout. I should go with page layout. It's more for like how do you want to see it, new windows, arrange all. So like zoom, there's 100%. I like to do 125. 125 is just a comfortable, nice, even 5 cubed number. There. Now it's a little larger, so hopefully I'll be able to see that easier too. Yeah, and then there's a search bar. I unfortunately have this. When I'm screen sharing like this, it hides it from me, so I'm gonna have to bring that one down. The search bar helps you do anything. So like, it's already shown me like what I did before. So if you wanted to find, we'll get into this later, like sum formula. I would just type in sum. It gives me the sum formula. It gives me other results and such. But like the sum formula is essentially just a calculator function. So I'm just going to do a basic summation. So it's the sum of 2 and 6, which of course is 8. And I think I had that highlight still. So let's just put some from in there. There's the sum formula. Don't worry about trying to understand that yet. I'll get into that later. I was just showing that if you're trying to find a particular formula in the future, like subtract, maybe there's another name for formula. Multiply. There, product. There. I don't know what the number for subtract is. Let the actual word. But yeah, okay. There's the basic layout of Excel. Let's go to movement. So I'm on the right sheet still. I'm going to close that one. I'm going to reopen this one. Okay, so you notice I can just click on here. I can move around. There's a couple things to this. So, okay, I'll just show movement first. So like I can just click on here. I go to that particular square. So if I can just go there. Yeah. Alternatively, I could use my arrow keys. So this is why I have this keyboard open. So again, the arrow keys. But just because, just as I hit numlock here, you can use these arrow keys if you do not have numlock toggled. So when you have numlock toggled on, these don't work as arrows. These will work as their corresponding numbers. If you have numlock off, they will work as arrows. So just to demonstrate, I don't know if I actually have numlock on or off. I do not have a fancy light, unfortunately, on this keyboard. Yeah, so my numlock is on, so it gets a 4. If I turn my numlock off, it arrows over. So yeah, you can move with your mouse. You can move with that. Alternatively, you'll notice that this thing right here, the name box, always corresponds to wherever you are. So it'll tell me I'm on C8, K15. So obviously, if I just go there and I want to type in J7. It'll take me there too. Yeah, it doesn't show me drop down. I wonder if it shows. No, it doesn't give me options. So I don't know what the drop down menu is for. I don't care about that right now. So just to showing you. Da-da. Oh, just to show you really quick too, and we'll go over this a bit later too. You can resize. Actually, I should explain what these are. So the Excel spreadsheet is made up of columns and rows, and I'm sure you understand what I mean. If you want to know what the easy way to remember what are columns and rows, so the letters are columns because they're up and down. The numbers are rows. So the easier way to remember this always is what is a column? Like in real life, what's the most common thing what a column is? It's supporting structure. It's supporting a house. So imagine this is a roof. These are all making up a roof, and then these are all columns, right? You can imagine this is, that's a column, that's a column, that's a column, that's a column. It's supporting up the roof of the spreadsheet. And then or alternatively, do you want to remember why these are called rows? If you go to a theater, do you call them rows of seats or do you call them columns of seats? You call them rows of seats. And how are seats in theaters always set up? That's right. They're always side to side, right next to each other in a row, a row, I'll do it, a row, another row, and a row. Columns and rows. Yeah, and you can resize the columns and rows. There's a couple methods, and I'll be going over this later too, just with actual words in them. You can change the width here. With the rows, you would do it here, obviously. You can change the height. We'll go over why you would do that later. You'll see why. Yeah, and it's pretty simple to understand. Let's go to entering data. So I'm just going to delete all these pretty quick. And I'm going to be doing some control functions today that are just makes it quicker for me to do to get through this. So if you remember me on Microsoft Word to undo something, it's Control Z, Control Z, and to redo something, Control Y. Oh, I'm not on Word. No, close. I don't want you open. Close. There we go. Yeah, so like I just deleted a bunch of stuff. I can undo that. I can redo that. I'm gonna redo it. Okay, let's go into typing data in. So we'll start with, I'll just teach you basic pattern stuff. So again, movement, I'm just gonna go over this. You'll notice that this is a cross. If I double click it, it turns into that. So I can start typing. I can start typing like that, but I didn't really have to do it that way. I could just go hover over it. When I click once, it hasn't, without double clicking, I can start typing. Alternatively, you've probably noticed just every single time I type that it types in here. Instead of doing here, I could go here, click once, and it works there too. You'll see why the top bar is there later when we're doing formulas. But for this particular example, it's not necessary. But I'm going to just type in, so this is a basic chart. You can imagine like it's like a graph. So let's do something that's really basic. January. And then down here, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, don't rely on these numbers to always correspond with these, no matter what you're doing, because I wouldn't put January here because I would have 1 there, because these won't show up on your graph. There may be a way to print with these showing up. I've never pursued to see if that's a thing, but yeah. But anyways, I just typed in January in these 5 just to show you this thing that Excel has a lot of cool perks that it does for you automatically. One of it is called predictive. It's not called predictive text. It's called fill handle. That's what it's called. So typically when you write January, what's the most common thing because you're on a spreadsheet? What's the most common thing you're going to write next to it? February, of course, right? Now Excel, how it's designed, knows this. So you'll notice if I go in the corner here where that little square is, my thing turns into a thinner cross as opposed to that hollow cross. It's now just a stick. And you can see it's already giving me previews of what it's going to do. And you notice that it actually lines up with the predictive letters. So August is the 8th month, I is the 9th letter. It's starting there because we skipped A. So what's the 12th would be M would be 13. So yeah. And look, it predicted that for me. So instead of me having to type it all out, it did that nice and quick for me. And actually, fun fact, it'll keep doing that. I could go forever. Of course, I'm not going to do that. Thanks, Control Z. However, it's not the same with numbers because after you type in one, it doesn't. When you're on a spreadsheet, depending on what you're doing, you're not always going to have 2, 3, 4, 5. Because I mean, for example, I got a calendar here, right? Well, what's yeah, it's going to all be ones. So if I did predictive text that way, so let's just do the column now. Is it going to be 2, 3, 4, 5? No, it's going to be ones because numbers are a little bit more complicated. So the pattern for words in months are more obvious than numbers are. So, however, if I multi-select, so this is a lot like using Microsoft Word, where let's see if I have something open. So just like Microsoft Word, if you want to select multiple words or letters, you would do this, right? So this is exactly how Excel kind of works too for doing the multiple rectangles. I'm probably going to say squares. Just when I say squares, I mean rectangles, okay? So if I just try to do one with the fill handle, it's just going to do ones, right? However, it does recognize certain patterns as long as you actually have a pattern going on. So if I multi-select that, it'll recognize the fact that I have a pattern of one between each number. So if I try and fill handle past that, you can see it's actually predicting that that pattern will go all the way up to what I want. And just to demonstrate something more unique, oh, my computer's being a little slow a second here. What's going on? Okay. So I'm going to type in 3. I'm going to type in, let's make it complicated, 8. Why is it not? My computer's being goofy all of a sudden. 3, 8. Let's go 13, 18. Oops. What the heck is going on? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so you'll notice that the patterns here is different. It started with 3, but I jumped 5, jump 5, jump 5. But it recognizes the pattern. So Excel's pretty cool. it'll predict the pattern as soon as you give it an actual pattern. I'm sure I can do more complicated patterns. I'm not here to show you how weird and goofy I can be with Excel. Let's see what else I was going to show you quick here. Download the data. Just give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to close out of this particular window. No, this is just an example. So, okay, so this is just the example I'm going to be using. So I downloaded this directly from StatsCan because StatsCan is actually there. It gives me the web address I went to right there. StatsCan is used by a lot of companies, as you can imagine, just for knowing public numbers. And I have a degree in economics, so I had to learn how to use StatsCan data in an Excel document, as well as several other methods. But so you'll notice that it's set up in a basic chart method. You know, there's a title at the top, monthly, table, geography, blah blah blah. But the first thing I'm going to show you is just sizing. So I'm not even going to manipulate the numbers yet, but it's sizing. So you'll notice that these are all hidden, and there's a couple things I'm going to show you here. Yeah, just making sure I was on track. So first, I'm going to begin with the fact that you'll notice Bank of Canada is across multiple columns here rather than being stuck like this. The reason for that is because so that's all that's in there. But if I click on B1, there's nothing. So when Excel registers that you have more text in a single box, again, I'm just going to use the word box rather than rectangle, it'll just cover the next column if there's no text in there. So the moment if I type text in C1, it's going to stop after B1. But if I delete that, it goes back there. If I type B1, right? And then we have the same issue down there. So why does this not go farther? Because there are numbers there. Alternatively, what you could do, and I'm going to do with Canada here, just to show you an example. I'm going to go all the way up here. Why not? Where is it? I think I'm supposed to show you later this in the webinar, but I'm just going to do it now. Is a merge and center option. So merge and center merges all these boxes to remove the lines and centers the word, hence the term merge and center. And again, like just like Bryce said, if you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what the function will do, which is obviously always nice, and you can click on that to tell me more. So I'm going to leave that like there. Now, there's two ways to work with this. Again, I showed you previously that we could just expand the size. Oh, not quite large enough. Oh, not quite large enough. So if you want to look this way, you can go all the way down there. And I'm pretty sure down here, this row is wider. Oh, wrong row. They could actually, I think if they made it smaller, it doesn't even fit in there. So you can't even see the word. So there are issues you can run into that just become complicated. And I'd have to do some formatting things. I'm not going to go crazy into formatting, but so I'm just showing you basics. That's A. So if I could shift that back, the other way I could do that instead of manually moving it, I prefer to manually move things myself, is I could double click right here. And what that does is it matches the longest word and gives a couple spaces. So Live is pretty close, but I'm pretty sure it just matched with this one and gave it a couple extra spaces. But they formatted this so it fits in a 2-line row rather than being full out. I wonder if it'll work for B here. Yeah, so it matched for what, B46. Yeah, B46. So I would match that, give it a couple extra spaces, and that's why that's so large. Obviously, I'm indifferent to having that like that. I don't even, all this empty space here kind of annoys me, so I'm actually going to cut this down to about there. Just because I'm not even going to be working about this for the rest of the presentation webinar. I'm just going to be mostly working with the numbers. Yeah, so you can always play around with that on your own. Maybe you don't like the amount of space between numbers. You can increase the size of your columns just so they're a little bit more further apart, so you're not trying to differentiate between them all. Maybe even like to do that. I'm more or less indifferent to that. Oh, what did I do? Oh, it's just put me down for some reason. Okay. Well, let's move on to inserting rows and inserting columns. But I'm going to show you movement patterns too. So I'm actually going to undo that because I need this now. Just so that nothing gets confusing here. So we're going to do with inserting columns, inserting rows, but I'm going to just put an example. So it's December 20th, and I'm going to make up some, those aren't even numbers. Have it. Look at that. Oh, beautiful numbers. I'm sure StatsCan would really, really appreciate that. So you'll notice, obviously, that, okay, that's going to bug me if I don't fix that much. There. What? Did I not? Oh, it's auto formatting, and I don't want it to auto format. That's annoying. Whatever. It's auto formatting where that's. Ugh. It's annoying because I want to say deck dash. I can format that. I don't care enough. Anyways, but what's the problem here is obviously that I'm missing November. And say you were, let's say I was the person who input all this stuff, typed all this stuff up, and say just someone hadn't given me the numbers for November yet, and so I like typed December and I did all this, except for now, say I got November numbers today, but I already have this here and I already have it in this column. Well, what the heck? What do I do? Do I delete it all? No, of course not. This is the modern age. There's two ways I could move this information to column H. The first way, that's probably simpler, just because there's not much data, I could just select the data, right click, and I would go to insert. Sometimes, depending on the um, particular, what's the type, windows you have, like they always update Excel. Obviously, if you have an older version of Excel, it'll give you different options. But typically, if you go to insert, is a safe option, and it'll give you these things. I could shift the entire row, but I'm not really dealing with a row. I'm dealing with a column. Or I could just shift the selected cells right. So cells always refers to the cells I've selected. Entire row, entire column obviously refer to G, but row would makes no sense because we have several rows highlighted currently. So first we'll do shift cells right, and look at that, they're moved right. I could type in here November, or I could do that neat little shortcut I showed you earlier, which is obviously quicker and just quicker. So let's undo that. The other way I could shift everything over would be to go insert the entire column over. Now, the biggest difference you'll find between the two options I showed you is one only did cells, where one did entire column. So I'll show you why that matters. So I'm just gonna put letters here because the letters don't matter. But now, if you had an entire spreadsheet, say, because this goes down to 35, say you had numbers all the way down, you had like 300 numbers. Would you really want to go shift? Well, okay, I'll show you another thing you could do in a second. I forgot to mention it. Do you really want to do this method where you have to like let the thing try and, yeah, so mine doesn't want to do that. It doesn't want me to highlight more. I guess there's another method I could show you right there. Actually, I'm doing that in the formula, so I'll do it when I get to the formulas. No, I want to get out of that. Get out of here. Get out of the highlight. Oh, sometimes Excel frustrates me. Yes, I get it. Enter. There we go. I'm finally out of that. So again, if you had like 300 numbers or 3,000 rows, like those do exist. I have seen them. I have had to work with them. You wouldn't want to try and shift and highlight it all, right? So one of the easier ways would be, again, without even highlighting, I could just go to right click insert. I could do entire column. So you'll notice it moved everything. And actually, if I go down here, it moved all the letters. So that would shift every single row all the way down. But you could also just go to here, so you see how that arrow points down. I could right click on that and it actually selects everything, and then I could right click. But theoretically, I don't even need to left click first. I could just see if I want right click and did that right away. Insert, and then there. Now, a question you may always have to ask is like, so this is on the end, so it seems more apparent, but like if I'm right here and I go to insert a column, which way does the information get pushed? The easiest way to always remember this is wherever there's more empty space. So if I put, and this seems kind of intuitive, but honestly, I get messed up by this myself sometimes just because if I insert a column here, I couldn't push this information to the left, right? Because A, B, and C are already taken. Even if C and B and A were blank, it's typically where information is. You wouldn't normally have information in D. So it'll always push the column to the right. And of course, everything I just said for this, say I wanted a new row, I could insert. Yeah, I didn't even have to click row there because it just knows there's nothing else to insert. Sorry, I'm not getting to that yet. Delete. Yeah, it's the same thing I just told you there. So yeah, so if I wanted to go insert a column, it's always going to shift to the right. If I go here, I'm going to insert a row. It's always going to push information down. Relatively easy to remember. I forget that by myself, like the at first too. I'm just like, wait, am I going down or up? Just to like type more information. It not a big deal. You get used to it. Uh, so I obviously I've already showed you how to insert a column. Now, what if I don't want a November? Let's. I'm not even going to bother typing it. If I don't want a column, or like say I don't want these columns in there anymore, I only want to look at June and July for this particular spreadsheet. Pretty obvious. I would don't go cut. Cut will not do it. Cut serves other functions I'm not going to talk about, but you would go delete. And you'll notice that it automatically moved December over. So what I did is I actually deleted those columns. So again, these letters and numbers do not correspond with your sheet. They are not on your sheet. They only represent the, like, not numerical, but like the quote unquote numerical or letter based column or row it is on. So that's H. Now it's E because we deleted 3 rows from the entire spreadsheet and it just assumed that you don't want a bunch of blank spaces. So it just moved all the information over. Of course, if you don't like that, you could always just go, oh, I could go copy, paste, and then I could actually clear contents. So instead of deleting the row, I could clear the contents where instead of deleting the row, it just makes a blank space. And I guess I'll show that instead of like what I said before. So say we did it here. I don't know why E is selected. So say I don't like D, E, F, but I don't want H to move. I right click and go clear contents. That way H stays there. So there's a difference between clearing contents and deleting columns. And obviously the same information goes with rows. Like I could do that, clear contents, and everything would stay the same. If I go delete, those rows would disappear and Canada Mortgage bonds would go from 17 to the new 13. But we don't need to do that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory at this point. And there's another option. So instead of deleting this information, maybe you're doing calculations and there's too many numbers on the screen for you. You're like, this is annoying. I don't want to see these things. You could go right click. Right click's just also referred to as the menu option of the mouse. And I could go to hide. And what hide does, it's exactly thinking. Instead of deleting or clearing, it hides the information. So it almost goes A, B, C, G. And that there's a little thing here, and this is what I actually hate about Excel, is that it's hard to select that middle. Like, honestly, I find it annoying. I think if I just double click it, yeah. I just brought out F. Oh, I guess if you double click, it'll just bring out one at a time, but usually you can right click it and go unhide. There you go. See, that worked for me. And of course that works for rows as well. Like everything rows wise, everything I'm doing with columns, you can do exactly the same in the rows. I don't really see the need of me having to repeat all this stuff with the rows. It's pretty much the same. Oh, I was going to show this earlier. So I've been shifting, not shifting. I keep saying shift. I've been right clicking and dragging to select information. But remember how we can use our arrows? In case you're like me, you don't like to actually take your hand off the keyboard too often. It's a habit you develop when you get used to inputting data and just doing everything using a keyboard. There are people out there who just don't even use mice for anything anymore. They just like using a keyboard. But anyways, I've been showing you how to click and drag information to select. You can alternatively go shift arrow. And I find it a little simpler sometimes because you can just click once rather than like a mouse. You can accidentally like go too far. It's like harder to choose a single square sometimes. Like if you ever find that you're trying to select certain letters, it can be a little annoying because mouse has a bit of a drag. So I'll show you on the keyboard thing again. I'm doing shift arrows. And then when I'm done selecting, I let go of shift. And then what I'm going to show you here is copy, like the paste and copy and paste function. So I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to arrow over, and then I'm going to let go of shift, and then I'm going to hold control, hit C, let go of control. I'm going to arrow over to another block. I'm going to control V. So let's do what I just did instead. So let's just do this simple one. I'm going to hold shift, down, 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 down. Control. I let go of shift, by the way. And then I hit control C. You see that? And wherever this the highlighted box that I have, like the one that's moving, not the one that's got spinning things around it, wherever it is the beginning of. I'm trying to say, like, think of a random word for this, but it's not the formal word, but like the paste function you're going to be doing. It's always going to be like the top left of wherever it is. So if I do Control V for that, it matches from where I started. So if I actually started down here, it starts down there. However, if you're going to be doing like a more of a larger amount of data, so I'm going to do this. It's going to be the top left corner. So where June 20th is where this one starts. And then it's going to paste it out just exactly like there. And actually from the keyboard, since I didn't exit out of it, like it gives me different paste options, but I don't care about any of those. So everything I'm doing right now is actually just using my keyboard. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. I'm going to go back to Control Y. There, I was just showing my hiding functions I was doing earlier. What am I showing you next? Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to actually, I'll show you. So instead of doing that function, I showed you the control with the keyboard. You could right click it, do copy, but there's options with Excel for future, if you have future issues. When you paste, Excel has different things. So that's paste normal, like the exact same things I have in there. But there's also values. So values will only do numerical things. So you'll notice that there's no December 20th anymore. It says 44185. I have no idea where they get 44185. They're just signing a random. It's not even random. It's got to be for a reason. But 44185. I mean, I'm curious. I'm gonna see if I just type in A. I wonder if it'll just do one. Oh, it'll just say A. I don't even know that. Okay, you'd have to look up why values changes December 20th into that 4 whatever. But let's go back to what I was doing. So you right click, paste, values. There's formulas. We'll talk about formulas later. Not pasting formulas, just transpose. So if you look at the clipboard icon, so like where my mouse is, you'll see what transpose does. It actually takes the information and kind of like, rather than the information being up and down in a column, it makes it in a row. So I have multiple rows selected, so that's why it's like doing the multiple rows things. But if I just had the one selected, it's just going to do transpose on the one. So yeah, if you don't like all your words at the side along a row, I could choose all this information. Oh, let's just do 3 just to make it 5, whatever that I got there. Say you wanted them to be the other way around, where the numbers are along the rows instead of along the columns. That's what it does, right? So it puts all the words at the top. So yeah, if you ever want to change that, you could do it that way. Theoretically, it wouldn't look too much different. You just want to do page layout and you did the orientation and you changed page orientation. That might look a little different. I'm just saying there are options. You'd have to look into that yourself, whether you wanted to do it that way or not. I would probably just do it this way because then I know my digital copy looks like that. What else was I doing? I was doing paste options. Let's go look back at this. Transpose, we did that. Formatting. So that's options. And then the paste link if you had links in them, where I have no idea why it has all the dates there, but nope, I'm not touching that. Just stick with paste. Just stick with paste and understanding what transpose does. Those are two main things I think you should be aware of for this particular webinar slash example. Let's make a copy of our entire worksheet. So you'll notice that there are two things here. These are called tabs. This was I did a pre-run of my month's example, so this was like where I typed in January. So that's what that tab is. I'll actually delete that tab because it's unnecessary. Yes, yes. But this is the tab. So this, if I want to make a new tab, I would click up on the plus button, new sheet, and I have a brand new thing. But this information's still here. But like there's so many uses this is good for. Like I could actually take all these words things, not transpose them, transfer them to this sheet, but I could change, I could put in different dates and different numbers. So like if I was switching sheets, you have the exact same info in the first column, which would be really nice. Something I did recently was I actually was putting some kits together, and so I had all the same words here for like say it was pipe cleaners and balloons and stuff like that, and I had potential costs and I had potential total value, but I made a new sheet, and then when I had my receipts, I actually put in actual cost, actual value, GST, etc., like that. So they're virtually the same information, but one was like predicted, and then this one was like after discounts and stuff like that, what it actually cost me, so I can compare the two things. But yeah, without getting too crazy in that, I can take this entire worksheet and I can copy it by going right click, move or copy. And so let's make a copy first. And I have a StatsCan info too. So what's the difference between these two? There is no difference, only the name. And I think I can rename this. So I can put uh, original StatsCan. If you don't like the name they give you. Original StatsCan sheet. And I'll rename this one to soon to be deleted. Yeah, so you can name these sheets. You can delete them if you don't like them anymore. Usually it'll prompt you if it's not a blank sheet. That was a blank sheet, so it didn't matter if I deleted it. But if I try to delete this one, it's gonna ask me like it will be permanently. Do you want to continue? Because that has information on it. You can also move it. So like say you have a bunch of sheets. Come on, pop up. And like you have to navigate these all the time. Like I've worked with sheets that have like 12 of these are all across. It's annoying. You can choose to move them. So I can move that. So this shows the before sheet. I can move this to end. So I should explain that. I already have that one selected. I can move to end. You can move it around. You can manually move it around too. So like I'm actually holding, I'm clicking and holding it, and you'll see that black arrow. It's asking where I want to put it. Yeah, so you can play around with that. And I'm gonna delete it just to stay congruent with the fact that I named it to be deleted. Delete it. There's no prompt because there's no information. There's not prompt because there's no information. I need a drink of water. Yeah, we're almost done here. I think I just need to do formulas. Da, 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 Okay, yeah, so first we're just gonna go over home quick. Yeah, just oh, I forgot to mention earlier. I mean, I showed you this option. You can double click and it'll match the word length. There was another way again to do it instead of the way I showed you. You could do wrap text. I forgot to explain what wrap text does, so that's why I didn't actually do anything. Wrap text kind of matches the text to that particular box. I thought, for some reason in my mind, I thought I actually would expand it. but it doesn't. It tries to either make the box wider like that, or it'll match the words to the box. So if I do wrap text there, yeah, it just made the row a lot wider. That's something you can do rather than trying to do it manually yourself. I'm a guy who likes to do everything manually myself. Yeah, it's just something I do. So of course, home has like you can change your text fonts. So maybe I want to change all of A to Arial rounded empty bold. I want to change all these, just those rows and columns, just those ones. I want to make them the size larger. If it gets too large, I'll just put number signs. I want to do these rows. I want to be red lettered. I want to fill in the background blue. Actually, I'll give you a little quick tip on that. So I'm going to undo everything. There, I'm done. If you're ever finding that you have too much information and it's annoying, a very common thing for people to do is to highlight everything in a very light color. Typical you would see is alternating like that. So I'm sure there's an option where you can actually it'll auto do this for you. So it'll just do every 2 rows rather than you do it manually. But this is a little easier to read, correct? Where you're not having to have a hard time. Like I could do that with my rows too. Let's choose a different color for my rows. I would do light orange. And you could probably think of like several different things. Like if this was a budget sheet and for everything that was, I'll show you formulas in a bit here so you could actually figure out different functions. If you wanted everything, say this was like a total, and then this was like a negative number, that was a positive, that was a positive, that was a negative. And yeah, you could actually like, here, let me do something quick. I'm just going to reset everything. So, you know, if you were doing a spreadsheet and then your total, everything you had where it didn't balance or it was a negative number, you were in the hole, it wouldn't be uncommon for you to just want like to highlight those all a certain color, right? That would make sense. That's just so you took it to your account and you're like, I would like you to pay attention to these particular lines as they are not making sense. And then say you felt really happy about being in the surplus here, so you made that a nice wholesome green, and everything else is just left. Yeah. So what was I getting at? I was going through the home. Yes. This is stuff we've covered in Word. Align left, centered. So this is all aligned left. Of course, depending on what you were doing, it kind of depends on what you care about. Let me just go back to blanking everything. Oh, that's everything's green now. White. Say you didn't like that. Maybe you're doing something, I don't know what you're doing, but you want it already like that. You could do that. You could center it. You could left it. Or left alignment. I don't left it. I don't know why I said like that. Oh, what have I got left here? Make a table. Oh, making a table is cool. So I'm trying to hurry up a bit. I'm taking a while, but this stuff takes long. There is format as a table. So what this does, any of these options really do. I'm just going to stick with the really basic one. Don't worry about that for now. Is it just turns this into a table. So I can sort it. I can sort by color. I can customize and stuff like that. This is stuff you got to play around with. I can't spend all day explaining everything on here, but I can deselect information. And rather than showing you that, so this is a table. So if you want to turn this particular stuff into a table, sure, I am actually going to undo that, because what I prefer to do when I have entire spreadsheets, and I'm just going to control all. I'm going to just do everything and see what it looks like. What was I trying to do? Data, filter. So you notice I have all these arrows. So a lot like the table, except for this is for my entire spreadsheet now, which I don't know why I got rid of my lines. Whatever, I got rid of my lines. I'm not worried about that right now. But it shows me everything I have in the column, which I find is very helpful. I can sort, so like, I'm actually going to undo that option. I'm going to just show you with these parts. Why did my lines go? Where did my lines disappear to? What did I do to do that? What did I do to deserve this? I don't want to look up how to undo that. I'm sorry my lines disappeared. I don't even know what I did. Did I choose click something by accident? I'm going to see if I can undo what I just did. Or I might just start a whole brand new document just to get rid of this annoying function. Because I'm in the middle of a video. Whatever. That's not the border I wanted, but the borders are back regardless. So let's go to this. Oh, it's a very aggressive looking border, isn't it? And I'm going to go data. Oh, I don't even want to select the dates. I'm just going to select these numbers. I'm going to filter those ones. So what this gives me is it gives me all that data. So the cool thing about this is I can sort it. And so like watch these letters. So I have the numbers of this particular column, the ones I selected. What do you think is going to happen if I select smallest to largest? Smallest to largest. But it doesn't affect this. That's kind of a problem. Well, that's what you got to play with on your own. But like, if I was just doing random numbers, I could sort it however I wanted. I'm gonna filter that again. There. Hopefully this will affect everything now. There we go. Now it affected everything. The problem is I didn't have that selected before. Now I did. I could do largest, smallest. I could deselect certain numbers. See? And then all the numbers I deselected are no longer included in the data. It's just hidden. So like you see how 2023, 21, 22 don't exist. I don't see, where's the next number? There, 30 through 32 don't exist. Yeah, so let's get back those numbers. I can also do number filters and do kind of like somewhat little formulas. So like numbers that equate to, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I want to do 0. Numbers that equal 0. Only numbers that equal 0 show up. So those two rows are the only ones that equated to 0. So I'm going to actually delete that function. Oh, and that has to equate to blank spaces. That's what I accidentally did. And of course, I could do that with everything. There's, if you look at it, number filters, there's cool things. Does not equal, I could do does not equal a number greater than, or equal to, less than. If you know basic mathematical functions, you should understand all of this. I can make my own custom filter. Yeah, like between, like it's pretty cool stuff. And I do believe that's good for that. Let's just work on the last thing, which is formulas. Oh, I really hate these aggressive lines. I wonder. Sorry, I'm gonna take another second just to see if it goes out of home. What happened to my borders? Why won't it be back like it used to be? What happened? Who hurt me? Oh yeah, I'm sorry about the aggressive borders. That's just how I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of this thing until I figure it out later. Just for this particular sheet. You know what? No, I'm just gonna start a new sheet. There we go. There's my soft borders again. I don't need that stuff anymore. So I'm just gonna type in some numbers because I still need numbers. Just in this area. I don't need a ton of numbers. But let's talk about formulas for a really quick second. Including Autosum. I need Autosum in there. So say you have all these numbers, but imagine like you got 100 of these numbers and you want to know the sum of all these numbers. Say this is like a receipt, like you were looking at a receipt and you had all your numbers, your cost of each one, and then you had a subtotal. Here, I'll even just to do subtotal. I need subtotal. heck, I'll do a common one just because I do this all the time. I do this all the time. Okay, there's two ways you could do this. You could either A, add it all up, where it could just be like 32 plus 4534. That doesn't work. You have to do equals. You always have to put, in order to do formulas, like even basic mathematical calculations, you have to put the equal sign prior to what you're doing. And so you'll notice that's why I said this bar is important earlier, because the formula bar will show what you typed in there, but that'll give you the answer. And this is what will print. That won't print if you go print. That will print 4566. But obviously those four numbers are easy. But like say I have all these. There's several ways I could go about this. I could do this. If I highlight the bottom one, so don't worry about 4566 here. I'll delete it just so no one gets confused here. And because that's the bottom thing, because when you're Excel knows that more or less when you have a calculation going on, and I'm going to be doing a sum of all these, where's the sum usually located? At the bottom. So Excel assumes that. And because I have a blank square there, it's going to put a number there. If I didn't have a blank, and I'll show you that later actually. I am on home. I do believe it's over. There is an Autosum feature here. It actually shows sum alt. I can also just go sum. Sum and Autosum are the same thing. Just it does it for you. There. Autosum. The sum of all those numbers put together is 5541. Now what if I did it again? Oh, nothing. But if I... So now I have this highlighted. But what's the problem is I'm highlighting this now, where that was a blank square before. What does it do? Nothing. But I made that sound like it was going to be a big deal, but it wasn't. Oh, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Oh, I just moved everything. So if I did this, now I have a blank square on the bottom again, Autosum. There. Oh, I don't know why that. Oh, because this is the formula. This is this formula of that one. So that's why that's not doing anything anymore. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. Like I don't need to take you advanced, like not like that. It's Excel. So yeah, it's a sum function. But here, let's click on that. Go over that. Equals sum parentheses. I was gonna say comma. D2 through D14. So that's the quick way to do a column of math. Is D2 that colon indicates that it's D2 through D14. There's other ways to do it. Oh, get out of here. I don't want to do it. I could have done equals sum. Oh, sorry. Equals sum. Now I could just go up here and I just click on it. And then I could actually go plus and say I didn't want to do this column. Say I just want to add that thing to that thing. I could just click that. See? All I did was click it, parentheses, there. Obviously, that doesn't make sense with me typing subtotal there and there, but you get the gist of it. Instead of having done what I did earlier for this, I could just type that in myself, or I could type in for this particular column. Oops. I would do E. Let's go 1 to E. What is that? 14. That's a little too low. I only want to do 13 for the technical here. And there you go. I could do some. I could click on that, plus click on that, plus click on that, plus click on that. That would take forever. Obviously, it's easier if I just do sum that. So if I had, again, I had 300 lines, I could just go sum D1 through D300. So if I had numbers in all those, that entire column, now it gives me that number because that's the sum of just all those. But if I had numbers in all those, it would add that too. And that's, you can all imagine that is so nice of a function that they have in there. Of course, there are more functions than just sum. This is something you have to explore on your own. I can find average. So this is auto features. There are formulas you could do. Like I could do average. What's the average of these four numbers? Because that one's so large, it's actually that. Instead of average, I could do what's the max. It's adding another one because it's a new formula now. 4, 5, 3, 4. More functions. Well, this is something you'd have to look into. There's so many things to do with Excel. So many things. Like just to wrap this up, because this is the last thing I'm showing you, I do believe. Let me just quickly check. Yeah. Just to give you a better example. So that is subtotal. That is indeed the formula I would do. This is how I would do something myself. But GST, what I would do is I would go equals, and I'm not going to put in a formula feature here like sum or anything like that. I am just actually going to go, what is that? D15, 15, because that's my subtotal. Now, how do you get GST? Well, it's 5% of that. So I'm actually going to do D15. The multiplication symbol in Excel is this symbol. And just to go over it, division is this symbol. And then plus and subtraction are pretty simple. But D15 times 0.05. What did I do wrong? Oh, I tried to put in a parentheses at the end. I accidentally tried to do that when I didn't have one to begin with. So I was trying to close something with it. So my GST of that is 277. So what would my total be? I could put a complicated formula in there if I wanted. Or I could just do the simple thing would be D15 plus D16. Boom. There, that's what my total would be. And I don't like how close that is, so I would actually insert a row there. So now it looks nice and neat. And say, oh, but Rory, these aren't with a money sign in there. Well, I'm not actually supposed to show you this yet, but I'm just going to show you anyway because I'm at the end of this video and I'm going to do what I want. I would go to home. Where's my option to do that? Uh-oh. I sounded cocky for a second there, and now I'm looking for that drop down. I think it's right here. Oh, yeah. So general, I'm going to go currency. Look at that. Look at that. Cool. Yeah, this lets me change my functions: currency, accounting, number, general, fractions, scientific, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's the video. So I'll just hand this off to Emma. And yeah, thanks for watching.
All right, so thank you, Rory, for that wonderful workshop. We hope that you learned something and take your time going through this workshop. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@uccab.ca. That's where you can send us your questions. You can also leave them below this video in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, either one, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Again, our next webinar in the post-secondary, or in the skills development series, is a post-secondary information webinar, and that's taking place on December 3rd. The link to sign up will also be in the comments of this video, as well as on our website and our Facebook page. Our next computer skills workshop is on December 10th, and that's for an intro to Google Suite. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We hope you enjoyed the workshop and learned something new. Thank you.